And it was a tremendous victory for these young people. But they weren't going to stop there. They tasted victory. And they keep pushing for the DREAM Act to be passed and for a rational, compassionate immigration policy to be passed by both parties in this country. And the young people inspired their parents as well. And they all came in the buses, older people and young people. And they got out on this corner in Charlotte. And they were moving fast. They were chanting, "No papers, no fear. No papers, no fear." And the first person to come out was Rosie Carrasco. I knew her because we just interviewed her on Democracy Now! That morning. It's very interesting to watch or listen to the people we interview. They end up doing or having done some very interesting things. And she got out, and I was asking her, "Why are you here?" By the way, it's pouring rain, and the police are pouring in. "Why are you here, Rosie?" And just as I was about to talk to her, a media personality came up to me. It's hard to call them journalists, but I had been with him on some panels, and I knew him, and you know him if you watch TV. And he came up and he said, "Hey, what are these people doing?" And I said, "I think they're about to get arrested." And he said, "What do they want?" So here I was with my microphone interviewing Rosie Carrasco. I said, "Well, why don't you ask her?" He said, "Amy, just summarize it for me." You know, he's about to go into the convention. So I said, "Rosie, why don't you tell this gentleman why you're here?" And she said, "Because I want to know what kind of legacy President Obama wants to leave. I want to know if he wants to be remembered as the president who deported more immigrants than any president in U.S. history, or if he wants to be remembered as the president who sided with the immigrants." Pretty eloquent. And he's taking out his reporter's notebook. I'm not sure if he deserved to have one, but he was taking out and he started taking notes. Why is it so hard for them to talk to people at the heart of the story, at the target end of policy? You know, these pundits you see on all the networks who know so little about so much, explaining the world to us and getting it so wrong. So, out came Rosie's husband. They were getting arrested together with their daughter. This was a family affair. And Martin Nzueta, that was his name, he got out of the bus and he said, "I've paid taxes in this country for 18 years, which is more than Citibank can say." And they started marching. And they made their way to the front. We have 5 minutes? Okay, let's see. Okay. Let me just think about this very quickly. Okay, so they made their way to the front of the convention, and they unfurled a banner with a big butterfly on it. And there was a young woman with her arm wrapped around an older, smaller woman, and they kneeled down. And I said to the young woman, "You know, I don't know, but I bet you qualify for this executive order that President Obama has issued." She said, "I do, but my mother doesn't, and if she's deported, I might as well go with her." And there was another young woman kneeling on the banner. And I said, "What's with the butterflies?" And she said, "Because butterflies know no borders. Butterflies are free." And with that, 10 of them got arrested. The movements of this past year. And then we moved to the end of August of 2011, the beginning of September, when thousands marched on the White House, and they formed a ring around the Rose Garden, trying to get President Obama to stop the Keystone XL tar sands pipeline from Alberta to the Gulf of Mexico. 1,200 of them got arrested. Among them, Naomi Klein, Bill McKibben, who wrote The End of Nature and who founded 350.org. And then that inspired Occupy Wall Street, September 17th, not far from here, when thousands of people tried to march on Wall Street and ended up at this sort of small park, Zuccotti Park, which they called Liberty Plaza, Liberty Square. And they began the Occupy Wall Street movement. I was watching the networks carefully. How would they cover this? First day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day. They just don't even mention it. Silence. And then it's ridiculous, right? These media personalities are passing it daily. We're in the media metropolis of the world. So the second week, they got to say something. And I'm watching one of the big talk shows in the morning, and they say, "What do these people want?" Every one of them has a different sign. If they could get it together enough to choose a spokesperson, we'd have him in the studio. What do they want? Even they don't know. Really? The occupiers didn't know what they wanted. Really. I think any Madison Avenue PR exec would have drooled to be the one credited with perhaps the most famous slogan in US history. We are the 99%. Whatever your political perspective, you know what that means. The word occupy has occupied the language, the English language, and also languages all over the world. I think it was quite clear. And then I want to talk about the pizzas that were flying in to occupy, right? The Egyptians were calling in orders to New York pizzerias to feed the occupiers. Wisconsinites were calling in the orders, and they were sending them in. I mean, there were so many pizzas flying into to Zuccotti Park that they would eat a lot of them. Of course, they called them occupies. And then they would have these big buffets where they'd serve the extra pizza. There were hundreds of people on some of these lunch lines. You know, it was right next to Wall Street. I saw bankers online. They heard there was a free lunch in town. And then they were conservationists, if nothing else. That was the occupiers. And so they used every aspect of the pizza. They ate the pizza, and they used the pizza pie box lids to make signs. And there were some great signs, right? There was this freak snowstorm, climate change, last October. Everyone gathered under their tarps. They got rid of all the signs to protect them so they wouldn't get soggy, except for one, hell, snow, we won't go. And then they had other signs like, I'll believe a corporation is a person when Texas executes one. And I thought I would end with a part of a column that has to do with the issue of execution. One of the signs that people came in with on September 17th, and for those of you who were there, you knew them or watched, were too much doubt, and I am Troy Davis. Too much doubt, and I am Troy Davis. And so let me read to you what we wrote then. We flew from Zuccotti Park to Atlanta, Georgia, and drove to Jackson, about 40 minutes away. Jackson, Georgia, where the death row prison of Georgia is. It was just 4 days after the occupation of Zuccotti Park, on September 21st at 7 p.m., that Troy Anthony Davis was scheduled to die. I was reporting live from outside Georgia's death row prison, awaiting news about whether the Supreme Court would spare his life. Davis was sentenced to death for the murder of off-duty Savannah police officer Mark McPhail in 1989. 7 of the 9 non-police witnesses later recanted or changed their testimony, some alleging police intimidation for their original false statements. No physical evidence linked Davis to the shooting. Davis was one of more than 3,200 prisoners on death row in the United States. He faced 3 prior execution dates. With each one, global awareness grew. Amnesty International took up his case, so did NAACP. Oh, the Pope called for clemency, so did William Sessions, the former FBI director, so did the former Republican Georgia Congress member Bob Barr, so did the Nobel Peace Prize winners President Jimmy Carter and South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So did Alan Alt, the former prison warden of the death row prison in Georgia. And he was joined by 5 other prison wardens who were not opposed to the death penalty, but they were in the case of Troy Anthony Davis. They said, too much doubt.